So my name is Costas Markides. I'm a professor here at the school, and I've been given exactly 5 minutes to present to you what I'm supposed to present next June at the GLS. Now, I'm from Cyprus, and I've estimated that 5 English minutes translates to about 8 Cypriot minutes. So I will talk for 10 minutes. So the theme is, how are the technologies of the social era, how are they changing the way we do business? And obviously they're changing the way our strategies, the way we interact with people, and so on. I'll talk about only one change, which is this one. I think the new technologies are changing us as human beings, as employees, as customers, as fellow human beings. They are changing us in fundamental ways. And just to give you a few ideas how they are changing us, and then very quickly say, what does that imply for business? The first change is that they are changing our brains. There's been research done by these psychiatrists at UCLA, which shows that just 15 minutes exposure to the internet, just 15 minutes, physically rewires the human brain. And I don't know if any of you have been exposed for 15 minutes to the internet in the last 10 years or so, but if you have, your brains have changed. And how have they changed? One of the biggest changes is that our attention span is now much smaller. Do you know how long it takes before you lose people when you talk to them? You know what your attention span is? You're listening to someone and then you switch on to something else. You know how long that is? Have a guess. 29 seconds. You know what that means? I lost you 1 minute ago. You see it in the students in the classroom. You know, you talk to them, and it's like their mind is wandering to different things. They're on the internet, they are checking their iPhone, they are doing a million different things. You're doing the same thing. We've become less attentive now, superficial listening. The other thing is changing. We are much more connected now. Do you know? Well, you know now. Do you know how many people go on Facebook every month? 1.3 billion people. Look at that. 100 billion friendships. Most of them coming from London Business School, I suppose. 100 billion, you know what that means? What that means for business, the next time your employee or your colleague says, I'm working in my office on the computer, you have to ask yourself, what are they working on? Maybe they are on Facebook talking to their friends. And that has a very serious implication. We are much more connected with our mobile phones. I saw this survey done in Europe. They asked thousands of Europeans, can you imagine life without something? And this is what they said. 43% of them said, I cannot imagine life without my current partner, which I think is about average. But here it is. Without my car, 64%. Without the internet, 84%. Without my mobile phone, 97%. Can you believe it? Half of the Europeans prefer to be with their mobile phones than with their partners. And another amazing statistic, look at that, 53% of people in the UK suffer from nomophobia. Can you believe it? You're all probably sitting there saying, what the hell is nomophobia? Well, nomophobia is the fear of being out of phone range. We are much more connected. Look at this, it's been estimated that 1 week's worth of New York Times content contains more information that you got in your entire lifetime in the, 18th century. One. Think about that, the kind of information overload we get and so on. In 2012, there were 31 billion searches on Google every month. Do you know what the number was 6 years before, 2006? So it's 31 billion in 2012. How about 6 years before? Have a guess. 5 billion? 2.7 billion. I don't have the numbers for 2014. I bet it's much more than 31 billion now. 72% of Europeans take their mobile phones or iPads to bed. I was doing a case study with Axel Springle, which is the biggest newspaper company in Germany, and the head of internet there, a young lady of about 30, says to me, the last thing most Europeans do before they go to bed is check their iPhone for news. And then she gave me this statistic that they take their mobile phone or iPads to bed. And I felt so guilty because I didn't take either of them to bed. So now I take both of them to my bed. She said to me, the last thing people do at night is they check the news on their iPhone or iPad. And the first thing they do when they wake up is they check the news again. So she said, between midnight and 6 in the morning, I have to change entirely my website. Because if people go to bed at midnight reading the news there, and then they wake up at 6 in the morning and it's the same news, they probably think there's something wrong with me. I have to change that, and so on. 93% of executives take their BlackBerries on vacation. 47% of them tell their partners that they left it at home. I could go on and on. You know, people are more culturally aware. I found this very, very nice video to share with you. We are much more informed when making purchases now. You know, you think you always ask our family and friends, but look at that. We purchase, 66% of people purchase on the recommendation of strangers. And you know what I mean. You go on Amazon, you go on TripAdvisor, and you check out the hotel or whatever you want to buy, and you base your purchase on what other people that you never even heard of have said about the hotel, about the vacation, about the book, and so on. Much more informed. Less patience, the now era, and so on and so on. When do we stop working? When do you stop work? You never stop work. You're on the plane, you work. You're in the train, you work. You go home, you work. You work all the time. The US Department of Labor estimates that today's learners will have 10 to 14 jobs. In other words, people who graduate from high school today, they will have 14 jobs by the age of 38. Isn't that ridiculous? I feel like a dinosaur. I've been at this school for 24 years. There's something wrong with me. 1 in 4 workers have been with their current employer for less than a year. People are less loyal and so on. It's a new employee. I could go on and on and on and on here. Really, I'm trying to give you all these statistics to make a very key point, which is what? People have changed. What do you know? We are less attentive, more informed, less loyal, more connected, less patient, more demanding. All of this combined. And the question, of course, is if you have employees like that as a manager, what do you do? How do you manage people like that? How do you control people like that? Implication one is, you know, do we have the right kind of managers? We're all, when I say we, I mean me and Andrew. We are of a different generation, you know. We were born and raised in a totally different culture, different kind of values. And then you have to deal with people like you. How the hell do you deal with people like, are we the right kind of people? The second problem, of course, is how do you control such a decentralized, informed, and demanding workforce? So, for example, like the example I used before, how do you control people who may be on Facebook when they claim they are working? How do you make sure they work? Or, you know, many people work from home now. How do you know they are working when they're at home and not playing golf? How do you control that? And the answer, of course, is you cannot control. You cannot control. It's 18th century word, this word control. You cannot control them anymore through rules and regulations. The only mechanisms left available, I think, in the new era will be strong shared values. They are strong because you sold them to people and they believe in them. And as a result, they do the right thing, not because you're above them watching them, but because they know that's the right thing to do. The example you have to think about is your children. Those of you who have teenage children. How many of you have 16, 17-year-olds? Tony, you have? Yeah. Do you let them, how old are they now?
One 16, one 17.
They are at that stage now when they go to clubs, don't they?
They'll still be in a club.
Yeah, on their own. Yeah?
Sadly not.
Yeah, at night. It's dark. Do you follow them around to make sure?
Actually, I fall asleep.
Yeah. The question, of course, is how do we let our children go out at night on their own? How do we control and make sure they don't do drugs or do something stupid? And the answer is, we don't. You don't send your wife around monitoring what's going on and sitting in the nightclubs and checking up. No, we don't. You know, what's the control mechanism is values. It's values. You know, you teach your children from the day they are born until they are whatever, ready to go to the clubs, what is the right thing, what's the wrong thing, and then you let them go. You give them autonomy, and you believe that based on those strong values, you know, they're gonna do the right thing. You're not gonna force them into it, and so on. Strong shared values will be the mechanism of control in the future. But the reason they are strong is not because you shout or you put them on the wall or whatever. They are strong because you manage to get them from the wall and into people's hearts. The values that drive human behaviors, they are here. And the leadership challenge for the next generation is how do you take the values from the wall and put them in people's hearts? And that's another story. There's lots of other changes that I could talk about. Adam, in a moment, I think, will talk about employees and customers and so on. But I don't want to leave you with the impression that everything has changed. I found something that has not changed, and I'd like to share that with you. Hope you enjoy this one.
Emma. Huh? Emma. 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 Emma.
So some things will not change, but a lot of other things will change. Okay, thank you very much. I'll ask my colleague Adam King now.
Thank you.